Attention sports enthusiasts, keep the adrenaline pumping and elevate your game day with Chumba Casino. It's completely free to play. No purchase necessary. Whether you're cheering from the stands, on the move, or relaxing at home, Chumba Casino brings the thrill of social casino directly to your fingertips. Experience the ultimate social casino adventure with reels of casino-style games, offering hundreds of exciting options to choose from and fresh new releases every week. There's always something new and thrilling to explore. From action-packed social slots and classic blackjack to engaging bingo and solitaire, the fun never stops. Plus, enjoy generous daily login bonuses and a fantastic free welcome bonus to kickstart your social gaming journey. Dive into the excitement. Discover a world where you can play for your chance to redeem some serious prizes and have a blast along the way. Don't miss out. What are you waiting for? Join now and immerse yourself in nonstop fun and adventure with Chumba Casino. Get in on the action today at ChumbaCasino.com and make every day a Chumba day. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. TNC supply.
After their car breaks down, a young couple stumbles into the bizarre and otherworldly home of Dr. Frank-N-Furter. Join us as we chat about a graphic death for Eminem, an eye-opening orgy, and the good old days back when Twitter was fun. Let's do the time warp again and find out if the Rocky Horror Picture Show stands the test of time.
Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? James says Gladiator with a glut. Alan says as a father, blah blah. It's the test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Test of Time Picture Show audio podcast. I'm James Brief, and joining me as always, the director of this podcast and my co-host and buddy and pal and fellow movie fan, Alan Noah. How you doing, Al?
I'm doing fine. I am dressed up as Dr. Frank-N-Furter. I'm not. I don't know that I could pull it off. But I am excited to talk about the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but I know that you really wanted to talk about another movie that recently hit Netflix, Happy Gilmore 2. When you first mentioned it to me, I gotta be honest, I was like, no, I'm not interested in watching this movie, mainly because I've just been lukewarm on virtually all of the Lego sequels. To me, it seemed like the kind of movie that if I was going to watch, I would watch it when Courtney's away on a work trip because she wouldn't want to watch it. So I would watch it while she was gone, but there's like 10 million other things I'd rather watch when Courtney's not around. But here's the funny thing. Courtney suggested, hey, let's watch Happy Gilmore 2. And I kind of did a double take. I'm like, wait, what? You want to watch this movie? And she's like, yeah, sure. And I said, okay, fine. If you want to watch it, let's throw it on. So yeah, I watched it, and overall gut impression was, it was better than I thought. I thought it was going to be god-awful, and it was not god-awful. It was entertaining. What did you think, James?
I think that's actually almost exactly how I was going to describe it.
Okay.
I was very worried about it. That's an exaggeration. I was
very
worried.
concerned.
No, I mean, I was concerned because I was kind of like, Adam Sandler, why are you doing? I mean, not that all of his movies are gems, but
some are uncut gems.
Yeah, very good. The obvious sequels from his smash hits, The Waterboy and Billy Madison. He never did any sequels to those, but he did several of the Hotel Transylvanias and Grown Ups. He's done several of those.
I think just two, right?
Yeah, two of those. I thought it would just kind of be a cash grab too, because Sandler's famous for he kind of films movies in Hawaii and where there's going to be cabins for all your buddies to hang out with. So I did think it was just going to be, remember when we did this in the first film? And there was definitely a lot of nods to the first film, but I actually thought that they were very clever.
To a point. 3 times it happened where Happy Gilmore meets somebody and is like, hey, who are you? My name is this person. I'm the son of this person. Flashback to Happy Gilmore 1, and then cut to the son of that character, because the actor who played that character in Happy Gilmore 1 is dead. So here's his son, and here's how he's going to help Happy Gilmore, or get in the way of Happy Gilmore. that same thing happened 3 times, more or less. And it's like, okay, come on.
There's basically a graveyard of pretty much everyone. Everyone from the first film is buried in the same small cemetery plot, which I did think was funny.
Well, yeah, because so many of them have died in real life. It's been 29 years.
Of course. You know, there are things I was surprised about. I was surprised about Bad Bunny and Eminem. I thought they both were good.
Yeah.
You know, I actually was surprised about the overall plot of the film.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was somewhat clever that they made the parallel to Live Golf, the LIV Golf versus the PGA.
Ripped from the headlines.
Yes, I didn't really love Ben Stiller's character in this film.
Yeah. What are the odds he's going to be there running this AA meeting? That definitely felt forced.
I would have been fine having him back in the film, but I thought he had a slightly too big a role.
I agree.
What do you think about them killing off a main character from the first film right away?
Spoiler alert, even though this happens right in the beginning of the movie, I kind of didn't like that in principle. Not that she died, but that he kills her. And like, I do think that the movie, as bonkers and ridiculous as it is, it does have serious themes about alcoholism and grieving and moving on with your life after tragedy. And it does take some of those ideas somewhat seriously, but it deals with him moving on from her death seriously, but it doesn't ever really address the fact that he killed her. Like, it doesn't take that part seriously. And I think that's a big part of it, man. You know, like, it's one thing to have your spouse die. It's another thing to be directly responsible for her death, accidentally, but still directly. That part bothered me more than the fact that they killed her. It was that he, Happy Gilmore, killed her.
I thought that was an interesting turn. I mean, they had to give the motivation for him to kind of be depressed and then come back. But I think it's better than her leaving him. So I guess killing her, but I guess they did it in a comical way. I mean, it's the same way, I guess, Chubbs dies. He kills Chubbs in the first film, so he kills his wife in the second film.
Yeah.
I did like that there were a couple obvious things that I thought were kind of obvious that they didn't go for. One is Shooter's role in the second film. I thought from the beginning, I was like, all right, Christopher McDonald is really hamming it up, and he's absolutely insane. I kind of liked his parole hearing, even though it was a little predictable.
Yeah.
But then he gets out, and then no, he becomes an ally, which I did like. I like how they did that.
Yeah, same.
There was another gag which I really thought was going to be obvious, and they didn't go the way I thought they were. When they had the really funny scene, probably one of the first parts that made me really laugh out loud, was a flashback to Happy's happy place, which was, in the first film, it was... There were people riding around with beer buckets and in sprinklers and just, you know, that kind of early Adam Sandler ridiculousness. And I did like how he freeze framed it and he tries to drink the pitchers of beer.
Yeah.
But he does say, I got to make this more age appropriate. And I was thinking, oh, is it going to be my hips hurt? It wasn't. The part I thought was really funny was he looks at, it was either a pair of shorts or a t-shirt and it says medium on it.
Yes.
I thought that was really funny and I thought that was a clever original joke. I've never heard that joke before.
Courtney and I watched this movie with 2 friends of ours, and we had just been having a conversation. My friend is a double extra large, and he was saying, I'd kill to be an extra large, let alone a large. And so then watching that scene in the movie, it's like, oh, we were just talking about this middle age and getting bigger and hating that and wanting to get down a size or 2. So yeah, when he saw the M tag for medium, that was extra funny because we had just been talking about that. I like that scene. That was very funny.
Yes.
I feel like you're talking about the things that you loved and I'm agreeing with you, and I'm only talking about the things I didn't like, even though I did enjoy the movie. There's a lot of physical humor and some of it is just violence played for laughs, which is kind of hit or miss for me in general. Eminem getting eaten alive by 4 alligators, that one I didn't like. When the Maxi Golf guy goes in the lobster tank, you can think, oh, that guy's a douchebag. He's going to get bitten, but he'll be fine. Eminem getting ripped apart by 4 alligators because he was a little obnoxious to a golf player, That's just too horrible of a way to die for that offense. And I know you're not supposed to think about it. And I know I'm overanalyzing. And also, then that's the end of Eminem's character. Like, it would be nice to see him around a little bit more.
You're right in that Eminem was only in the movie for like a minute or so, but in the first film, the mentor has his hand bitten off by an alligator, and then when this alligator is killed by being, I think, punched in the snout by Happy Gilmore, and then said mentor gets a heart attack and falls out the window when he sees the head of the dead alligator. I think in this universe, it fits. I didn't find it funny. That was my problem with it. Did all the jokes hit? Absolutely not. I did think some things were silly. I actually had a good number of laughs, a few laugh out loud laughs. I did think it was a good nostalgia movie, but also it had a reason for existing because there was a new story there. So overall, I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I think, honestly, it always helps when you have very low expectations for a movie, and my expectations were on the fucking floor. So, yeah, I was bound to be pleasantly surprised, but I liked it. I enjoyed the experience. I'm glad we watched it. I'm glad Courtney wanted to watch it. I'm glad we all watched it together. But speaking of movies that are fun to watch communally, let's talk about the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I saw that the movie was celebrating its 50th anniversary. I figured that we had to do it on the podcast. Had you ever seen this before, James?
I had never seen this film before, ever. This was the first time I watched it.
Okay. I'm very, very curious to get your take on it. But first, for anyone who hasn't seen the movie, it's about Brad and Janet, a young couple who get engaged right after their friends are married. That night, their car gets a flat tire, and they stop at a mansion to use the phone. Instead, they come face to face with Dr. Frank-N-Furter, a self-proclaimed transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. Frank has created a man, Rocky Horror, to be the ultimate sexual partner. Rocky is going to replace Eddie, a previous experiment whom Frank kills. Frank then seduces both Janet and Brad, and Janet then seduces Rocky. Dr. Scott, Brad and Janet's old teacher and Eddie's uncle, shows up looking for his nephew. After an orgy in the mansion's pool, Frank and Rocky are killed by Riff Raff, Frank's butler, who wants to return to his home planet. So, this movie, I know that it was both a bomb and a success, because it bombed initially, and yet it's also kind of been in theaters for 50 years straight, so it's really made a ton of money, too, right?
Yeah, before they started these so-called midnight screenings, the film was basically a financial bomb.
Right.
Well, I mean, it cost about $1 to $2 million to make, and it was pulled from the 8 opening cities very quickly. That's what I've seen. It opened September 26, 1975, and it came and it went. But then in 1976, they started showing some of these midnight movies that were kind of like movies that maybe were a little bit more taboo.
Right. It was underground, it was niche, and it was kind of a marketing decision. Before this was a movie, it was a play. It was a play in London. It was a smash. It was like an underground thing, and it grew and it grew and it grew. It moved to the States. It was doing gangbusters in these theaters, and then they decided to turn it into a movie. The studio spent a lot of money on it, and then it bombed, and then some executive said to someone who worked under him, you better find a way to turn this into a profitable movie. And the way that they did it was just putting it in these midnight screenings and not advertising it. Because if you advertise it, then it's fake. Then it's a thing that the studio is telling you to like. Having it just go into these midnight theaters, that allows a response to grow organically and for people to find it and tell their friends, hey, check out this movie that I found. And then it is cool and hipstery. And then, that brings in a crowd, and it snowballed. It took time.
This film, it grossed about $1 million when it first came out. So it's one of those things where, it didn't make money. And then in 1976, it grossed $11 million in the United States and Canada, $2 million internationally.
Okay.
And then by the end of 1980, it grossed almost $70 million.
Wow.
But I grew up in a town, West Nyack, but the town Nyack near me, it's kind of an artsy town, and they had a small theater. it always said Rocky Horror Picture Show, Friday or Saturday, midnight or something like that. And I was a kid. I didn't really know what it was. But my sister Joanna, a friend of the show, Five Timers Club, she wound up telling me about that because when I was younger, because she always knew about all that cool stuff. And I'm like, people dress up. And then we went to college. And, then I guess it kind of went away around 2000 or so.
No, it didn't.
At least in Nyack, I'll say.
Okay, fine. But it is still around. There's a local cinema just up the road that does still do Rocky Horror shadowcasts. When I first saw the word shadowcast, I was like, does that have anything to do with podcast? It does not. But that's when people get dressed up and reenact the movie. They did it here just a couple weeks ago. I really wanted to go and talk about the experience. Courtney and I couldn't make it that night. We had other plans. But it is still a regular thing. I had a cousin who used to go, I think in the 80s into the 90s, who would go to these live showings. And watching it at home on the couch was a different experience. I think in a way it maybe is perhaps better for us to have watched it that way, because then we are able to fully get the experience of the movie. I'm sure if you're in a crowded theater with people yelling and screaming, it would be a little tougher. But I do think that is a big part of the movie. And there are some people who do prefer to watch it at home on the couch alone. But I think there are a lot of people who wouldn't really have much interest in that and would just rather go and see it with the people, with the props, with the yelling, with the singing along and everything. And I wanted to get your gut reaction to the movie, because I was sort of imagining you watching the movie, and I was picturing you saying, what the hell am I watching? Did you have that reaction, or am I off base on that?
It wasn't what the hell am I watching? This absolutely reminded me of I'm watching some off Broadway, really weird thing. I have no idea at certain parts of what the plot is. This is one of those films that I did have to cheat a little bit and look on Wikipedia and be like, wait, what's going on? Who is this old man that just appeared out of nowhere and is narrating?
Oh, okay.
This is a movie that I did rewind a couple times to kind of see, did I miss something here? Did he just kill that guy with an axe? What did he do? I still don't understand why he killed Meatloaf's character.
He called it a mercy killing because he created Eddie as his sex slave, and that experiment just didn't work so well. There's a line where Frank says that Eddie and Rocky shared one brain. And like you see that scar on Eddie's head, but also Eddie wasn't a creation because, he has an uncle. So he was doing some experiment with Eddie. It didn't fully work out. Rocky Horror is kind of like the 2.0 version, the new and improved version. So Eddie is useless and annoying, and he's like kind of stealing Rocky's thunder after Frank shows off his creation. It's kind of out of spite and anger too that he kills him.
And I'm kind of wondering, did they just eat him? Did I mishear this?
No, they eat him. It's cannibalism.
I know that I did have to rewind again, but that's on me because I was like, no, whoa, okay, fine.
Speaking of that scene, like that dinner scene, it immediately made me think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know if you had that reaction too, but the way that they're kind of sitting around this table and kind of playing house, and there's some gender bending going on, and it's supposed to be like a nice normal family dinner, but it really isn't. And I did see that they did take inspiration from that movie.
What was the gender part in Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Is it just that he's kind of like he wears the leather on his face?
No, Leatherface is wearing an apron. He's kind of like the mom in that scene.
Oh, okay.
And he's
androgynous.
he's serving them. It's kind of playing with Leatherface as the quote unquote matriarch.
I didn't see that, but I now, film school here. Now I see it.
There you go. But actually, that's a good segue. Let's talk about the gender bending stuff in this movie, because this movie is known for being very popular in the LGBTQ community. And it's not hard to see why. Even from the opening scene, Brad and Janet get engaged, and it is laughable what they are doing and why they are doing it. they're so happy for their friends who got married because she's a good cook and he's due for a promotion in a couple years. Therefore, it makes perfect sense that they got married. Like, wait, what? While Brad and Janet are walking away from the church, they go into a cemetery. The background changes, the music changes, the sound effects change. Then they go back to the church, and the church where they just had a wedding is now basically setting up for a funeral. The symbolism there of this straight marriage being a metaphor for death, it's not subtle. And then you get to the mansion and you meet Dr. Frank-N-Furter, who calls himself a transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. Transylvania, whatever, that's fine. Transvestite and transsexual are not words that are in the lexicon anymore. Now you would maybe say crossdresser or transgender, but the movie is playing with these gender norms and these heterosexual, homosexual roles really quickly, and it feels really ahead of its time. Like, this movie's 50 years old. It feels like these are the kinds of characters you would see in a modern movie. Oh, this is a non-binary character. This person is transgender. This person is bisexual, pansexual. They use words 50 years ago that we don't use today. But I think the representation of the movie, showing that there's more to life than just straight people, straight sex. Like, Frank seduces Janet and then Brad, and it's nothing. Like, it is not a big deal that this, using the term they use in the movie, transvestite character sleeps with the woman and then sleeps with the man. It's not shocking other than, oh, they're engaged and they should only be sleeping together. But it's all brand new to them. They have never experienced anything like this. And then that orgy scene in the pool, it's not an orgy that is titillating or scandalous or meant to be, whoa, check it out. It's almost, in a way, sweet. I think that's helped by the song, Rose Tint My World, and Frank is singing, Be It, Don't Dream It. It's an orgy, but it's also an eye-opening experience. It's just meant to show Brad and Janet, these very boring, heteronormative characters, hey, there's more to life. You don't just have to get married and do the whole one man, one woman, man and wife thing because society tells you to do that, which is definitely the path that they're on. And that's fine for some people. But Frank-N-Furter is showing them there's a whole other way. Check this out. And they're into it.
I think there's a lot in this film that the engaged couple is a naive, inexperienced, naive, ignorant engaged couple that they're getting comfortable with everything in this weird, wacky world of theirs that they've stumbled into.
Right. What did you think about the songs on the soundtrack? I don't think it's much of a bold statement to say that Time Warp is the most famous song on the soundtrack. I think there are plenty of people who have never seen this movie but know Time Warp just because it's on every Halloween playlist. There's Thriller, there's Ghostbusters, there's Monster Mash, and there's Time Warp. It's a great song. It's very, very catchy. What'd you think of Time Warp? Were there other songs on the soundtrack that you were into?
I have to say that I didn't really find many of these songs on first listen. I didn't really find them that memorable or catchy. I thought that the Talking Lips thing was so boring.
I mean, that's fair. I think it's interesting in that it's female lips dubbed with a male voice. I believe it's Patricia Quinn's lips. She plays Magenta, and Richard O'Brien singing. He plays Riff Raff, and he also wrote the original play. So it's some gender bending right as the movie starts. And it's all in reference to older sci-fi movies from the 30s, 40s, 50s. I'll be honest, I did not get every single reference. I caught a few of them. I got the vibe of what they were going for. Originally, the idea was to not show the disembodied lips singing, but it was going to show clips from all of the different movies that are being referenced. And they did not do that because that would have cost a fortune in licensing. So they couldn't do that, and they did the lips instead. But I think it sets the stage of, this is the kind of movie that you're going to see. This was the inspiration. Remember those old sci-fi movies from the 30s, 40s, 50s? That's what this movie takes its inspiration from. And it's just kind of setting the scene for that. To me, the other really memorable song on the soundtrack is Hot Patootie, Bless My Soul. That's Meatloaf's song. Meatloaf he is no longer with us, but he was such an amazing singer. I love the way he sings. I love his voice. I love the passion he brings to the song. And this was before Bat Out of Hell. This was before he was Meatloaf, the recording artist. This is when he was a guy trying to make it as a recording artist, and he was cast in this movie, and that sort of led to him having a big break and a big musical career. But I love that scene.
Watching Meatloaf, I was like, whoa, this is awesome. And he was really good. And that's why I was referencing earlier. I was like, wait, did they kill him?
In the original play, Eddie is played by the same actor as Dr. Scott, because, they're nephew and uncle. And so they have a family resemblance. And, in a lot of plays, one actor plays dual roles.
Right.
So in the movie, they decided to not do that. And Meatloaf was not happy about that. Meatloaf really wanted to play Dr. Scott because he just wanted to have a bigger role and more screen time. And if he had played both roles, then one character is killed, but then he gets to come back. And unfortunately, he really didn't come back, except for when you see his corpse. And apparently that was a surprise to Susan Sarandon and Barry Bostwick, and I think a lot of the cast, when Frank pulls the sheet and reveals that Eddie is under the table and that they've all been eating him. Only a handful of the cast knew that was going to happen. So the surprise that you see on Janet and Brad's faces, it is genuine, because they didn't know. They didn't know that was going to happen.
There was one line that did just make me laugh out loud. Just like when Tim Curry's character says, and it's about anticipation. And I just thought that was a very clever way of saying that line. I thought that was probably the only laugh I had in the film. I don't think necessarily that this was a yuck film. So that's not a critique of the film, but I didn't really laugh out loud at much.
That was a joke I remember from Twitter, back when it was Twitter. This is maybe like 10, 15, however many years ago. There was a Twitter account that had the first line of that. I see your lips quiver in Antissa ... I think it was a few years before that account then tweeted Patient. And it was like a if you know kind of a thing. People who knew the movie got the reference. They're like, that was a good one. It was worth the wait. Also just a dumb Twitter joke, but whatever. Back when Twitter was fun, we can be nostalgic for the good old days.
It reminds me of from How I Met Your Mother, when Barney used to say, it was legend, wait for it, Derry.
Yeah.
And there was one season finale. He goes, our life, Ted, it's going to be legend, wait. And the next season, it starts out with Derry. And, it was the longest one they had in the series. I just like the joke. It reminded me of that.
It's a good joke.
But does this movie stand the test of time?
I think that just based on the pop culture longevity of this movie, it's kind of a no-brainer to me that it stands the test of time, because 50 years later, after this movie was released, it's still in theaters. Not all the time, not in every theater, of course, but you could, with relative ease, see this movie in a theater near you, probably within the next, couple weeks. Maybe you have to drive for an hour or two, depending on where you live. Put it like this. It might not be the easiest thing to do, but it would be a hell of a lot easier to see the Rocky Horror Picture Show on a big screen somewhere than it would be for literally any other movie from 1975. Maybe you could say 2 years later when Star Wars comes out, that's also very much in the pop culture zeitgeist, nearly 50 years later. But this movie really has lived on. So many people have seen it. So many people love it. I think that for the people who don't love it or have never seen it, they know of it. They know the kind of the basic premise. Maybe they've seen Tim Curry dressed up as Frank-N-Furter. You probably heard Time Warp at a Halloween party. The movie has a life 50 years later. I think if you were to strip all that away, which I don't know that you can or should, but even just for argument's sake, if you did strip all of that away, the movie just on its own, yeah, it's camp. Yeah, it's low budget. Yeah, there are things that you can kind of point at and say, oh, they probably should have done another take of that. Oh, they could have improved that with a little more budget. Things like that you could nitpick for sure. But you do feel that this movie is a labor of love. I felt that watching the movie. So much of it is from Richard O'Brien, the riffraff character. He wrote it. He poured his heart into this story. So many other people worked on it. The costume design and the directors and the songwriters and the actors. Tim Curry brought so much to the character. He really cared about it. He's a classically trained thespian. And here he is playing a transvestite alien. And he takes the role seriously. And you feel it. You feel that this movie is something that a lot of people cared about while they were making it. Maybe this is a weird analogy, but I'm thinking about it because of, just midnight screenings and the kind of thing that people like to go to and see communally. If you take a movie like The Room is just bad and people go to those screenings to make fun of it. This is a movie that people go because they genuinely love it. There's really great stuff in here. I think the way that it leans into queer culture is impressive and wonderful, and it really helped give a voice to a lot of people who saw this movie and thought, oh, it's okay to be like that. It's okay to wear women's clothing. It's okay to be attracted to other men. It's okay to be attracted to men and women. It's okay to not just want to get married because I'm supposed to. So I think in a way, this movie is kind of important. I realize that might sound hyperbolic, but I think it's true. And yeah, I think 1,000% this movie does stand the test of time. What do you think, James?
I think that I watched this film the wrong way. This film is meant to be seen with other people. This is what theaters should be. They should have this movie every Saturday night at midnight. But I didn't watch this movie in a theater. I watched it on my couch alone. And I paid attention to it, and I even rewound the film at several times. I can really tell that this film, exactly like you said, Al, this was made with a lot of heart. But for me, watching this film, I didn't really enjoy it. And I'm really struggling with, your answer of course it stands up today, people watch it. But did it stand up for me, James Brief, sitting alone? No, I would love to watch this in a theater.
You should.
I did not hate this film, but I found it very confusing the first time and nothing too catchy. And I wish I watched it with 8 friends. They were all dressed up. That might have been a fun experience. But the experience I had was very meh. So I apologize. And I would like to see this again.
I think you should. I think you should see it again. I think you should see it in the theater. I've never done that. I would love to go and see a Shadowcast. I was bummed that Courtney and I missed it. We were planning to go. And then I saw on Facebook some friends of ours went. And I was like, damn it, we could have gone with them. It would have been so great. I think, though, that even without seeing it in that experience, I still feel like I get it. So that's why I can say yes. I understand why it's a no for you. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. Next week, we're going to be talking about a movie that also, like the Rocky Horror Picture Show, does have a lot of sex in it. We're going to be talking about The 40-Year-Old Virgin. It's the 20th anniversary of that movie. I haven't seen that movie in so long. I'm really, really excited to rewatch that one. I assume you've seen that, right?
I have, and as far as I remember, it really doesn't have a lot of sex in it.
Well, a lot of talk about sex.
Correct.
Fair point. Until then, we want to hear from you. We are at Test of Time Pod on Facebook, X, Instagram, and Threads. Write to us. Let us know what you think about the Rocky Horror Picture Show, about Rocky Horror himself, about Frank-N-Furter. we didn't at all talk about Susan Sarandon's singing voice, which is so high and flat that I kind of like it, even though it's not very good. Just remember, if you are mad about James saying he didn't like it, it was James. James said he didn't like Rocky Horror. I, Al, and Noah did like it. And we'll see you next time, everybody.
Bye.